You've just stepped into the realm of Recipe Wars. My name is BC Hoffman, and today we are doing Southern fried chicken. I chose Thomas Keller's recipe because
it's brining the chicken before it's cooked, whether you're roasting it or whether you're sauteing it. In this case, frying the chicken. So we brine our chicken ahead of time.
What's really cool is Thomas Keller's recipe calls for the brine. It's got a number of ingredients in it. The seasoning is going to consist of salt, pepper, we've got our paprika. You can use any type, Hungarian, Spanish, and cayenne pepper. I like spice, so we're going to put a little bit more of both of those in there.
Extra spice.
Oh yeah! Spice that bad boy up.
My name is Lolita Lopansary, and I'm doing Paula Deen's dish.
So I'm gonna share with everybody a recipe for oven fried chicken.
Now, we all know Paula Deen is the queen of Southern fried chicken, but today she's actually doing a healthier version where she's using chicken breasts and she's pounding it and baking it, and it's definitely a lot healthier than frying, and as we all know, she is diagnosed with diabetes, so this is a great recipe for those who used to love fried chicken and ate it all the time as a kid but can't now. So it's going to have a lot of flavor still with Parmesan, mustard.
I'm Adrian Bustamante, and I'm doing Alton Brown's recipe.
After a night's soak, the acid and sugars in the buttermilk have actually invaded the chicken meat, which is going to give it a nice tangy flavor.
What we do is we're actually soaking our chicken overnight in buttermilk. It almost creates almost a batter in itself once you pull it out over the night, so you get that much flavor to it there. What I'm also going to do is I'm actually going to take our seasoning and we're going to put it on directly onto the chicken as opposed to into the flour before I dredge it. The reason he does that, and I totally agree with it and do it with my own fried chicken, is if you put the spices in the flour, it gives it a tendency or a chance to even burn those spices once they're in the pan. So this way you get it on the chicken, it automatically increases the amount of seasoning that gets into the meat, but you also get the seasoning in the batter as well. So it's the best of both worlds. And for someone that maybe at home is just starting out to cook fried chicken, this is an easy way for you to do it because you don't have to worry about the spices possibly burning on the pan. You can just cook your chicken, be happy with it, make it with love, and it becomes very, very happy.
So it's kind of cool because we're actually doing 3 different techniques for fried chicken. And there's actually 3 different techniques for making fried chicken. One is shallow fry, one's deep fry, and one's pressure cooking or baking in this case.
The healthy way.
The healthy way. I'm using peanut oil. Peanut oil has a relatively high temperature without having a large smoke point to it. And it just incorporates a neutral flavor all around, but at the same time it's great for frying. I would definitely go with that anytime over olive oil.
So with mine, I'm not frying my chicken, but I am using olive oil. Now, if I were to fry my chicken, I wouldn't use olive oil, right, because the smoke point is too low and it'll overpower the flavor of my chicken. So with just a little bit, I have enough in my panko just to adhere the crumbs better to the mustard that I'm using. And since I'm not using all these spices like all the other recipes, the olive oil will just help me give a little bit more flavor to my chicken.
I'm using shortening to fry my chicken. Shortening is actually fun because if a little bit of history, a little bit of insight on shortening, it's actually called that because it prevents cross-linkage between gluten molecules. And if you actually do allow cross-linkage to happen, it creates elasticity in the actual food. So in this case, we want something that's crumbly in regards to our batter or the fried chicken that happens after it's all said and done. So we don't want to create any elasticity. So that's where shortening comes from, and that's what I'll be cooking mine in at about 350 degrees, and it's a good 350 because if you go above 350, our chicken has actually a really low smoke point, so if you start to burn it, you get bad smells, you get bad taste, and like Alton Brown says, that's not good eats. So I'm gonna stick it at 350 with my shortening.
You want to get all that excess moisture that it's just had sitting inside and kind of just get it out, because what you're going to do is you're going to dredge it in the flour and the seasoning. In my case, I'm going to put it back in buttermilk after I do it with the flour dredge, and then again in the flour. You just don't want too much moisture, because too much moisture, it's not going to stick on there.
So before I start breading my chicken, what I'm going to do is actually pound the chicken breasts. So these days, chicken comes in all different sorts of sizes and shapes. So by pounding it, what we're doing is breaking down the connective tissue of the chicken breast, and it's actually going to tenderize it. And if you don't have parchment paper, you can use a Ziploc bag or wax paper and just put one on the bottom of the chicken and one on top. My recipe's gonna win. No, now this just ensures that it's gonna bake evenly.
Again, I totally agree with Alton Brown. Season liberally. It's like you said, I'm trying to get as much seasoning into the chicken and also in the batter as well. So you're trying to hit two things at one time, so don't be afraid to over season. You're gonna be fine.
So what Thomas Keller does is he actually takes it, and he takes the chicken, and he puts it in the flour. There's a light dredge in the flour, so we're just gonna do boom, boom, and then he dips it in the buttermilk. Boom, just like that. Get it on both sides, and then he dips it right back into your flour that's been seasoned up.
So now that my chicken has some mustard on it, I'm gonna mix my dry mixture, which is gonna have shredded Parmesan cheese, some minced thyme, a little bit of salt, and pepper. Just gonna mix that up. And just kind of to make it stick a little bit more, just that touch of olive oil for flavor.
One thing that I'll do is I'll probably set this in here for about 12 minutes on each side. Let the first side get nice and golden brown, that A side, and then you'll actually start to see moisture start to creep up through the chicken and kind of pool on top. Some of it will be steam, but a lot of it will be moisture as well. Once that starts happening, that's when it's time to flip. And once we flip, the one thing you're going to also be very aware of is you're taking cold chicken. The one thing you're going to wonder is you're going to take cold chicken, you're going to be applying it to that already hot oil, which is actually going to decrease the temperature of your oil.
In the deep fryer, what I like to do is I like to take a little bit of flour, drop it in, and if it starts to boil and bubble, that means it's ready to go. So a little recipe secret when it comes to actually doing it in the kitchen. I'm a huge fan, if you're deep frying or pan frying, especially pan frying, finish in the oven. It's going to give it a nice golden crispness to it, and at the same time, it's going to keep it warm. Yeah, that is good. I like how the cheese is melted on the other side. That's awesome. It's nice and moist.
I'm a huge texture fan with all food, and that's why I love panko so much. There's so much texture to it, the crunch.
It's really light and airy.
You can feel it hit the roof of your mouth as soon as it gets...
And you've got the aromatics from the herbs right there.
So you're right, the cheese on the
The
bottom.
cheese gives it its natural saltiness right there too, which is great.
Thing is like, no matter which side of the chicken you have, like, it's one very flavorful side is hitting your tongue. So you're getting the cheese, you're getting that panko with those different herbs and spices on there. This is really good.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay, you guys grab that meat. I'm going straight for the gusto right here. Yeah. I hate to say it, but this is cooked perfectly.
It really is. The chicken is so tender, it's so moist, and you're right. The skin is so crispy.
Yeah.
There's no
Just going straight for
moisture in that skin no moisture in regards to a bad moisture in the skin that's going to make it soggy. It's just a good combination of that texture from the skin to the chicken.
And that brine, I could really taste all the herbs in there.
Yeah.
Just from letting it sit in that brine for 12 hours.
Now
And
you
it
don't.
keeps it really moist. Too.
Yeah, and you don't want to go over with the brine, because if you do too much brine, it's going to dry it out. It's going to actually make it saltier in the process too.
I really get a nice flavor from the searing in your cast iron, actually, more so than the deep frying.
Yeah.
It's got kind of, not, I wouldn't say burnt, but it has a depth of a nice sear on your chicken.
There is definitely that taste, like, and you get that, like certain fried chickens are like that. You're going to get a definite more of a, like you said, that seared, almost not quite burnt taste to the chicken when you do it in that cast iron pan. And there's a lot of flavor popping out of it. There's definite flavor in the chicken from where the seasoning was. It's moist. It's a really
Super
good recipe.
moist, yeah.
Now, the secret when it comes to using cast iron skillets, same thing with old school grills. All the flavor that you're gonna get is coming from those items. I do love it, but at the same time, I really, the buttermilk, I'm not a big fan of buttermilk batter. Like if you soak it in buttermilk, that's not my forte. I'm gonna have to say, mine's the winner.
I think it is. I think your brine, it won it over.
Thomas Keller. Thomas Keller.
It's hard to beat Thomas Keller. I mean, the way he is in this, which is cooking in general. And I knew going in that any recipe going up against his was going to be a difficult recipe to compete with. This is a very good chicken. Hers is a very good chicken as well.
Healthy.
Very healthy, but it's still, it's not quite fried chicken like I said in my mind, but it's still a really good recipe. But yeah, Keller all the way.
So Thomas Keller actually says, great technique, great ingredients equals great cooking. And there you have it right there. You have your technique, you have the best ingredients possible, and you're just keeping it simple. You aren't going above and beyond, you aren't putting too much of anything in, you're just keeping it simple. So this has been Recipe Wars. Thomas Keller's fried chicken surpassed in one. Great product plus great execution equals great cooking. And there you have it, Thomas Keller's words coming right out. Simplicity is the hardest thing to do because it's all about technique, influence, and influence of technique involved in the cooking. And that's what he accomplished right there. Thomas Keller's recipe 1. I'm the winner! Spoon feed me! That being said, I'm BC Hoffman. You've just seen Recipe Wars. Please subscribe to our page, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and catch us next time when we fight on!